Hey there, it's Jody and Gabby here with Create Kids Club. Thanks for joining in our replay. Today we are going to be making oatmeal chocolate chip cookie dough bites made the safe way using oatmeal rather than flour. We'd love for you to join us over at Create Kids Club, where I share simple, healthy recipes for families. So if you are interested in this recipe and like to find more similar to it, please head over to the website or like us on Facebook, Instagram, and also on Pinterest, all at Create Kids Club. So this recipe came about because Gabby really loves cookie dough recipe that her grandma makes, and it is really delicious. That one, I don't know if grandma cooks the flour for that or not, but
I think she probably does.
Yeah, so what I wanted to let everybody know, if you're making these raw cookie dough recipes, make sure that you're cooking the flour before eating it, because flour is actually considered raw, which I think most of us really don't realize that fact, but it can carry some of the bacteria similar to eggs. So you can get E. coli poisoning from eating raw flour, just like eating raw eggs. So what you need to do is just bake your flour first in the oven at 350 for about 5 minutes, and that would kill all the bacteria. That's why you can use flour safely in any recipe. Typically flour is baked, and that does the job of killing the bacteria. But these recipes that are coming out eating raw flour, it has become a problem. There has been 2 instances in the last few years of people getting E. coli poisoning from eating raw flour. So that is an important thing. So that's kind of why we took this recipe and changed it up a little bit and used oatmeal instead of the flour. Now it is a quick and simple treat. It's not the healthiest recipe, but it sure is fun to make, isn't it, Gab?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, I'm going to let her take over. She wasn't super thrilled to be cooking on her own today, so we're going to do it together. And we're coming a little late because Gabby is doing homeschool like all the kids are right now, and that went on a little later. So, but here we are doing our recipe today. So, all right, Gabs, why don't you tell them, what do we have in here?
We have blended oats. How much oats? We have 5 cups of oats in there, and we blended it to make oat flour.
You're right.
Yes.
So that makes it more similar to the texture of the regular flour in these cookie dough bites. Now, if you don't want to use oats, we have 5 cups of just quick cook oatmeal that we blended. We did it in advance since that's kind of loud. So see if you can see what it looks like. It looks like flour now. So all we did was oatmeal in here, blended it up. It doesn't take long at all. Now it looks like a flour, and we're going to use this as our base. If you want to swap it out with regular flour, that's perfectly fine. Just cook that flour first for the 5 minutes. Okay, so our next step after you make the oat flour, what's the next step, Gab?
We have to mix 1 stick of butter. I can't do this at the same time.
Sure, why don't we put the butter in?
Okay.
And then it has sugar, vanilla, and salt. And we're going to use the hand mixer to blend that up.
And then
So these cookie dough bites, we're going to make them into little balls that are bite-sized little treats that you can keep in your refrigerator, or we froze them. They froze pretty good, and did they taste good frozen?
yes, they did. I ate them very quickly.
She liked them like that. Otherwise, you can spray a pan. Actually, you probably wouldn't even need to spray the pan, and put the batter into the pan and let it sit in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes once you're done making them. It does need to set up a little bit, otherwise it's a little runny, not runny, but they're not as firm as when you let them sit. So it looks like you're adding the vanilla. How much vanilla did you put in?
1 teaspoon.
And how much brown sugar?
3/4 of a cup.
All right.
And then salt.
And then a little salt. You can skip the salt if you want. I like the added flavor it gives, but certainly you don't need to add salt. And if you're already using salted butter, you really could probably skip the salt. So that is an option.
So now we have to
All right, you're
Can you
gonna
hold the bowl for me?
cream it together, sure.
The butter's gonna.
So we're still struggling with where to put this camera so our heads don't get cut off and you can see what's going on. So bear with us. One of these days we'll figure it out.
This butter is very hard.
It is supposed to be room temperature butter, and we did let it sit out for an hour, but I guess that wasn't quite long enough. But you got it. Just keep working through. So this kitchen transforms into Gabby's classroom. She works right here during her school day. So it's not ideal to set up and do work in this kitchen while she's trying to take a test today, right?
Mm-hmm.
What test did you have?
Math.
Math. She loves when I ask her those questions.
Just one glob of vanilla right now.
All right, why don't you maybe turn it up a little bit? We want to make the, get the butter blended in well enough that it looks kind of like sand. So it might just take a little longer if your butter isn't quite as soft. You can always put the butter in the microwave to soften it up for like 10 seconds, but it's not necessarily ideal because usually part of it will start melting and then the other part is still a little hard. So when in a pinch, you can do that, but I find it always to work best in recipes if you do let it come to room temperature. That's probably so.
Yeah. Good?
That's probably good. Okay, so the next step is to blend in the sweetened condensed milk. So it does use the whole can of sweetened condensed milk. Now this recipe does make about 32 cookie dough bites, so at least with all the high calorie and high fat ingredients, it does make quite a few servings at least. That's probably good. You don't have to get all of it out of the can, that's not really a big deal. Then she's going to continue to stir that up. Now when I developed this recipe, I did try to make it all in the blender. My blender just does not work really well without enough liquid in it, but I did used to have a Ninja blender, and I bet that blender this would have worked in, where you wouldn't have had to make the beaters in another bowl dirty. You could have put it all right in a high-powered blender. If you have a blender that doesn't really need a lot of liquid in it to work, you could really try that out because it nearly worked in the blender, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So we switched to doing it that way. Yeah, I think it looks good. Let's see if we can show them what the texture looks like. Alright, so it's a little creamy and runny. She's going to add in the chocolate chips. And this is why it really does need to set for about 30 minutes, even before you scoop it into the cookie dough bites, which today we're going to actually make them in a pan because we don't have the time to come back to you and do that. So I'm going to grab the pan. We can put them in.
We get half a cup of chocolate chips. You can always do more. And then you blend that in.
You blend them or just stir it in with a spatula, either way.
Does that look like enough chocolate chips?
That looks like enough. Typically we use mini chocolate chips. Those work better, they look better, they taste better. However, in this day and age of ordering groceries online and picking them up, we got the wrong kind of chocolate chips sent to us. So we're going to deal with what we have, but I would recommend...
Flour. You have to add the flour.
Oh goodness, Gabs, we forgot the flour.
That's the next step.
Next step.
Yeah.
Good thing somebody's reading the instructions. Here you go.
Looks a little bit too runny to be flour.
Actually, we would typically add the flour before the chocolate chips, but somebody's paying attention. That's good.
Simple.
I was thinking that looked really runny.
Don't forget the flour.
Don't forget the flour. That's a very important part.
Okay.
So I'll pour in as you mix. Typically you don't want to add it all at once or you might get the flour straight up in your face. I'm sure we've all done that a time or two. So there we go. Now it's getting thicker as it should.
There, you can add some more.
So we've been spending a lot of time in the kitchen during this time of staying at home, and the kids want to make a lot of treats and less healthy options, and so we've just been going with it and having a lot of extra treats in the house. But they've been learning a lot of life skills, I believe, learning to read recipes better than me today, and being creative and looking up their own recipes. Especially Gabby really likes to go and find different recipes to try, and has been learning a lot, I think. So
this is what it should look like, not runny.
that looks way better. So I still wouldn't roll it into balls this way. I mean, you can, but your hands will get really sticky, and it's still pretty, what would the word be? It's that. But let me show you what we scoop it with. Let's see. I'm not sure where the cookie dough scoop is. Alex, would you find it for me? The cookie scoop? Here. If you are doing the cookie dough bites, this is a tool that I would highly recommend. Is I think it's like a 1 ounce cookie scoop. It works so good for making chocolate chip cookies in the right size, that they're not these monster cookies. And we find many, many uses for it. So, I mean, I would just scoop them up. Oops. You just put it in your hand and roll it out in about 30 minutes after you let this harden up. And they do make, like 36 or so cookie dough bites. You want to put the rest in there?
Yeah, well, I was just seeing.
All right. So it does work really good too in a little pan. It's just a 9x9 pan. And we'll let this sit up, and then you can just cut it into squares. So that is the faster way to make this recipe, because it does take a little while to roll them all into balls, but it's a perfect job for kids to do. We all seem to have time on our hands, so just give it that 30 minutes. So there you go. You can show them what it looks like in the pan. So much thicker than before we added the flour.
Yes.
And a good lesson in reading recipes all the way through. Actually, I usually tell people to read a recipe, especially kids, read it through at least 2 times. Make sure you know what you're doing. Get all the ingredients out, all your utensils out, and then you're ready to go. Because if you're working through and you see an ingredient sitting there that you haven't used yet, like our flour, then you realize that you've missed something, and usually you can go back and fix it. So thank you so much for joining us today. Next week we'll be back making another recipe.
Yes.
I think we'll do the easy mac. What do you think?
Sure.
You can comment below if there's something else you'd rather see. Otherwise, there's a recipe for individual mac and cheese in the microwave that I really have been enjoying making with the kids, and it's something easy to do and uses real cheese. So there's that. So anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please comment below. We'd love to hear from you, and head over to the Facebook page and follow Create Kids Club for more simple, healthy recipes for families. And tune in every Wednesday at noon for the next foreseeable future to see some more simple recipes that you guys can make in your kitchens at home. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
All right, we're back with the finished cookie dough bites. We rolled some out and wanted to show you what they look like. So after they set up for about a half hour, they get much more firm and are able to be rolled and ready to be eaten. So enjoy it. Ooh, let's get a close-up. Let's get a close-up of the... Let's focus on it. Ooh, they're good. All right, thanks everybody.
Bye.